Welcome back to Lori's Kitchen. Today we're going to be making one of my family's favorite recipes called sweet and sour pork ribs. Normally over the years I've made this on the stovetop, but today we're going to try it in the Instant Pot and see how it comes out. It's a tender pork ribs, and I use the ribs that are cut short ways. You can always have your butcher do that. I found some at Costco that are cut that way now. They're St. Louis ribs, but they're cut into short sections, so it's perfect for this recipe. So let me show you what it looks like. So come along with me and let's make some sweet and sour pork ribs in the Instant Pot together. Let's take a look at the ingredients needed to make this recipe. You need about 4 to 5 pounds of pork spare ribs, and these are cut small. I got these at Costco. These are actually St. Louis ribs cut small. 2 to 3 tablespoons of avocado oil, 1 cup of brown sugar, about 2 teaspoons of minced garlic, 3/4 of a cup of vinegar, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. I'm using gluten-free soy sauce to make this a gluten-friendly recipe. 3/4 of a cup of ketchup, some salt and pepper to taste, about 2 tablespoons of cornstarch with about 2 tablespoons of water to make a cornstarch slurry, 1/2 cup of water, and about 1/2 teaspoon of dry mustard. Let's begin. In a medium-sized mixing bowl, we're going to add our brown sugar, our soy sauce, the 1/2 cup of water, our 3/4 cup of white vinegar, our 3/4 of a cup of ketchup, and we're going to use a whisk to blend it thoroughly. We want the sugar to dissolve and make a nice sauce. Add in my 1/2 teaspoon of dry mustard. And our sauce is ready to go. Now we're going to prepare our ribs. So we take our thin strips of ribs and we're going to cut them by the bone. And we're going to do this for all our pieces. So as you can see, in this case, there's actually 2 pieces of strips of ribs, and I'm just cutting them right through where the bone is. If you can't get your ribs cut like this, you could use whole spare ribs. It's just so much easier to work and cook with when they're cut like this. When you're done cutting your ribs, put them in a nice bowl like this so we can finish them off. First, we're going to salt and pepper them to taste. And I started out with clean hands, and usually I have some plastic gloves, but I didn't use them today, so I'll be tossing these to thoroughly coat all the ribs with some salt and pepper. Then I have to wash my hands again because I'm touching raw pork. Now we're going to get our Instant Pot ready. We hit the saute button, and we're going to wait for it to turn on so we can start browning our ribs. Once it says hot, we're going to go ahead and pour in our avocado oil. Now that the pan is nice and hot, it's time to put in your ribs to brown them. Normally I would brown them in batches, putting in just enough to cover the bottom and give them a nice sear. But the night that I made this recipe, I was in a little bit of a hurry, so I just dumped in all my ribs at one time, and I'm just going to brown them up just a bit. Usually I like to sear them individually, like in a few batches, because it adds so much more to the flavor of the sauce. But these were delicious just the same. So now that they've browned a bit, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step. So normally when I make this recipe on the stove top, I like to boil the ribs for a few minutes first, then drain them out. So this is why I'm taking my ribs out of the pot. I'm going to drain them in a colander and then just rinse the pot out. This step is not necessary, but I prefer doing it that way just to get some of the extra fat out of the sauce. I put my liner back into my pan, put the trivet inside, and now I'm going to be putting all the ribs back in. And you can see there are some juices Like I said, it's not a necessary step to go ahead and take that out, but I just prefer to. If you don't, just ensure before you do this next step that you've scraped the bottom of your pan and there's nothing sticking to it. So now we add in our beautiful sauce that we've made. Add the minced garlic. We're going to ensure that our sealing ring is sitting in the rack. I'm going to put on my lid, lock it into place, and put the valve to sealing. We're going to hit cancel if we haven't done so already, and hit pressure cook, and we're going to cook this for 25 minutes on high. After you hear a few beeps, you'll know that the pressure cooker is working. And after the 25 minutes of cooking time under pressure have completed, you'll know this by looking at the display. Right now there's 1 more minute of cooking time. That's what my display shows. Once it is done cooking for the 25 minutes, it'll say L000 like this, and that means the cooking time under pressure has completed. Now some folks like to do a natural pressure release, but these ribs are so tender the way they are, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick release. So I'm using a wooden spatula, pulling the valve to venting and letting all the steam come out. Once the pin drops, we know it's safe to open the lid. The Instant Pot goes into a keep warm mode, so now I'm going to hit cancel and put it back into the saute mode to finish the sauce. I'm using some pot holders to lift out my ribs, and I have a bowl ready to dump them into. As you can see, the trivet actually was helpful to get most of the meat pieces out of the pan so we can finalize the sauce. I'm using a slotted spoon just to remove the rest of them, and then we're going to thicken our sauce and we'll be done. Before I finalize the sauce, I like to use a spoon and try to get out a little bit more of the oil that came out of the pork while it cooked. This is a personal preference, it's not a requirement. If you don't mind your sauce being a little bit more on the oily side, then you don't have to do this step. This is just a personal preference of mine, so I try to get out as much as I can. Another thing I like to do before I thicken the sauce is taste it, and I gave it a taste and I felt like it needed just a little bit more soy sauce. So this recipe, I've probably used about a total of 4 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 in the beginning and then 2 at the end. I've added in 1 tablespoon of the cornstarch slurry. See if it's thick enough. With the Instant Pot on the saute feature, it's like simmering the sauce on the stove top. Same concept, it's going to help us thicken the sauce after we've added the cornstarch. Now we're going to give it one final taste and adjust any seasonings that you prefer. I wanted the sauce just a little bit thicker, so I'm going to go ahead and add in the remaining cornstarch slurry. I like my sweet and sour sauce nice and thick. I probably simmered it for about 3 to 4 minutes after adding the second amount of cornstarch slurry. I just wanted to make sure you see how thick it's going to get, and just note that it will get thicker as the sauce cools. So now I've taken my ribs and it's time to put them back into the sauce. I'm going to go ahead and use a spoon because I don't want to splash and get hot sauce all over myself. So I'm just going to use a little spoon here and put them back into the sauce. We're going to let them warm up, get back up to temperature, get some flavoring of this sweet and sour sauce all over them, and it'll be ready to serve. When I serve this dish, I usually have the ribs in one bowl and the sauce in another. I have some family members who just like the meat that's been cooked in the sauce, and others of us who like sauce all over the meat, and if we serving it with any type of white rice, sauce all over the rice too. And there you have it, sweet and sour ribs, Asian style in the Instant Pot. If you enjoyed this recipe, please give my video a thumbs up, and comment down below. If you would like to see more of my videos, please hit the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell to be informed when my next weekly video is available. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye-bye.